Hey everyone, Matt Pisarcik from RazorEmporium.com. Today, to talk about one of the most famous series of razors ever produced by Gillette, the Aristocrat. And it all started right here in 1914. So many people have heard of a Gillette Aristocrat, but you've seen probably 7 different kinds, because there are. Aristocrat was a class of razor, much like Ford has an F-150 truck that's a class of truck that's been made for 50 years or whatever. Well, in the same fashion, Gillette had an Aristocrat class of razor that came out in many different versions, usually just denoting a nicer case, a nicer razor, some feature about the razor that was kind of a deluxe version of their standard razor and always sold for a few dollars more. This is, by no exception, the grandfather of them all. This is the original 1914 style Aristocrat in the French ivory style case. Now, French ivory is a kind of a trade name or a pseudonym for celluloid, which is just injection molded plastic. Very early version of it, but it is denoted always with this creaming kind of color and usually some kind of pattern put into it. Regardless, beautiful case, very ornate, very nice. Now the razor. The razor, by first look, may just be a standard single ring, but you notice this tip down here is a fluted tip because it looks like you're playing the flute with it. This fluted tip is kind of the distinguishing factor that makes it an Aristocrat versus your standard single ring razor. Other than that, the cap is relatively the same, the guard is the same. It is going to be from the old type series of razor, meaning a curved guard, open comb, and stabilizer pins. Still your standard 3-piece design, featuring your individual serial number and date letter code on the guard. You can find more information about your razor using GilletteDateCodes.com, our website for our dating chart. This razor was offered in silver and gold plating, and as you see on our example here, it has a stunning silver patina on it, which now looks like a beautiful smoky gray. But you can see the tip is pretty much the original silver color because it's getting constantly handled with your fingers in your hand here, and that oil is actually just enough to take the patina off and leave it off. In my personal collection, I would never polish this. If I was going to use it, it is more sanitary to have it as polished. We actually do have tips on how to polish silver safely on our website so you don't remove any silver plating and you could use science. That being said, so the Aristocrat is a class of razor, and there was many other versions throughout the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. But this one features 2 blade banks and also the matching French ivory. And again, it was sold for between $5 to $50. It depends on different options of the plating and the handle and if you want it engraved or not. But even at that, this razor set today, in today's dollars, $5, would be about $123. So you had to be pretty well-to-do to afford an Aristocrat. That's exactly the kind of person they were going after. They were going after someone who maybe was a business owner, a tycoon, someone who had a little bit more money, a little bit well-to-do. And don't forget, this came out in the time period of the Old West, people moving westward, expanding, kind of a spark of innovation, of America kind of building itself out. And the Aristocrat kind of embodied some of that. It was a razor you could take with you. You didn't have to visit a barber shop anymore. And the advertisement spoke to that. It was the kind of razor that a well-to-do person would have. But whatever Aristocrat you find, they're some of the nicest razors Gillette ever produced. And certainly on the Rarity Scale, if you consider the fact that there's no cracks in this one, and that's another common thing. You're going to get cracks in the handle, teeth missing or bent, but if you find one without those flaws, I would say on a Rarity Scale of 1, it's common, you'll find it at a thrift store. 5, it belongs in a museum. This is probably something at the 3 to maybe 4 range, especially if you have the original case. One of the most common things that happens, sadly, to these cases is that the hinge breaks off. This hinge is no longer functional, it's in a separate piece. You'll see them as just kind of stacked together like a sandwich, but it is supposed to hinge. So if it's all together like this with the matching blade banks, I'd say at the upper end of that scale, maybe 4, maybe even 4.5, just depends on the condition. But certainly a beautiful razor nonetheless. Thank you for watching Razor Emporium. Stay tuned for all things wet shaving. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.